Okay, everyone, welcome to this section of the REO training. This is an exciting section. I think it's the one that you're probably wanting the most, right? Like everybody's like, yeah, that's great. REO 101, eviction, cash for keys, that's fantastic. But how do I get my foot in the door, right? How do I get the business? So what I'm going to go over, the information that I have for you today is going to be a little bit different than Josh. So Josh has the experience of having actually been an agent in the field, accumulating a large amount of clients, right? And I have 7 years experience on the opposite side of the fence. So actually being the asset manager, making decisions about what agent to bring on. Like when I was a pre-list coordinator, I was actually calling agents from the phone book, asking them to take REO listings. And I know it's hard to imagine that, but this was back in 07 before the market really started falling apart. But then throughout the years, I would actually get to know the agents, and I've worked with hundreds, if not 1,000 agents over the last 7 years in every single city, every single state. And I've seen what makes a great agent. I've seen ways that we've assigned business, things that I agree with and things that I don't agree with, which I'm going to go over. But I've also been involved in the high-level executive meetings where we talk about agent assignment and we talk about qualifications and we review agent performance. So everything that I'm telling you guys, it's not theoretical, okay? It's based on having sold over 10,000 assets, but having worked well over 20,000 assets over 7 years for 20 different clients all across the country. Okay, so it's really not theoretical. It's based on what I've seen, and I was with some of the biggest. I've worked with some of the biggest clients, so I know a little bit about their process. Okay, so we're going to go through this. This is just going to complement the training that Josh has in how he was able to go out and absolutely explode his REO business. And I think that the two of them combined are going to make you absolutely deadly. And that's what we want, right? Like we want you guys out there just kicking ass and taking names. So let's dive right into it. What we have right here, this is a webinar that I put together that I wanted to share with you. It's really just an overview of some traditional ways to get into the REO business and then some non-traditional ways that I really think are preventing agents from not only getting in the business, but it's preventing them from blowing their business up. Okay, and I had this conversation. I promised I wouldn't use names, but I was in Dallas and I was talking with one of my friends who I've known for 7 years. Actually, I've known him for 9 years. I worked with him for 7, but I've known him for 9. And he's high up. He's one of the top dogs. And he was telling me about how one of our mutual friends in a very heavily populated foreclosure state has not been getting any foreclosure because of his diversity. And my buddy can't tell him that. Okay, so these are things that I'm going to go over. So it's not always going to be the best medicine, but it is medicine, right? So we're going to do some traditional ways, and then I'm going to tell you some things that you may not even be aware of that are really getting in your way of growing your business. And then the rest of our program is designed to actually give you some additional tools. Like I'm not going to harp so much on the the asset manager mindset. We're going to go over that in a separate one. This is really just some strategies to get in and grow your business up, okay? So without further ado, we're going to jump in. This is just my webinar on 5 simple steps to get in and grow your business. This handsome devil is me. All right. And if my computer will cooperate, everything will be fine here. So, okay, so before we begin, I just want to commit this to you guys. Here's my promise, is that I'm going to show you numerous strategies on how to get in and blow up your business. And I promise that if you take one of these and really just focus and master it, that you're going to get in, you're going to change your business forever. And I don't want to give away anything before we jump all the way through, but I do want to tell you the number one mistake that agents make when they try to get into REO business is they try one time and they give up. Okay. For some reason, and I don't know how it started, but for some reason there's this like it became acceptable to try one time and to give up, to submit one application, to have one conversation and not get an assignment and to walk away with their hands up saying it's impossible to get into REO. So I don't know how it came across that it was so easy to get in REO. That may have been from 2007, 2008 when it was really hard to find agents. But when that market changed, it became harder to get in. So I've always thought of REO as that client. They're like the one key contact that you want to nab, because unlike going out and pitching a listing presentation, if you earn my business, if you pitch enough and you earn my business as an REO outsourcer, I'm not going to give you just one listing. I'm going to feed you listings every single month. So it's in your best interest to master these strategies and really do whatever it takes to get in and to grow this. So I'm going to show you some. You just pick what you're comfortable with. I kind of give that away as I go, but the reason why it's so important to get into REO, you have your own reasons. So I'm going to just give you what I think the top reasons are. And I really already said it. Number one, it's the gift that just keeps on giving, right? Like when you get in and you get that listing, I even look at it like Josh has so many amazing tactics with his boot camp, and we go over some of these with the leveraging REO for traditional sales. And if you haven't already done the boot camp, the 90-day boot camp, you're missing out, and you need to do it because he has the tools and the strategy in there that you can take one REO listing a month, 12 a year, and you can leverage that to get another 12 listings, to get 12 or more buyers. Like there's so much that you can do off of just one REO listing a month once you understand how to do the business and you understand how to leverage it, okay? So for me, being an REO recession-proofs your business, right? One of the common misconceptions is that REO ever went away. And I'm going to show you a slide on here that demonstrates that it absolutely has not. The difference is that in 2007, 8, 9, and even a little bit in 2010, the focus was on all the REO. Like there was so much REO, and all the lenders had kind of shut down and they didn't want to lend money, and there were all these crises. This was a huge national crisis. So all the focus was on the foreclosure market, and you had some areas like Nevada that at one point over 90% of their available properties were short sales or foreclosures. You saw similar things like that in Georgia, Tennessee, parts of New York, Connecticut. You saw it down in Florida. California definitely got hit. Like all these major areas were just impacted so significantly with REO that the minute that lessened up and value started to come back and lenders started to come back into play, everybody just thought that the REO went away. Well, it never went away. It just went back to its normal level. So it's always there. It's always going to be there. So for me, getting into REO is recession-proofing your business, because there's going to come years, like it's one of my favorite things Josh says is not when something happens. Like it's not when we go back into that kind of market, or I'm all over the place. It's not if we go back into that market, it's when. And he's right. He's always prepared for the next step. When you get in with an REO outsourcer, you may have some years where you're just doing so much REO you don't even know what to do with yourself. And then other years where REO has decreased and now it's focused on traditional sales. But if you've done everything right and you've set up your business, then you're going to recession-proof yourself so that you can ride those highs and lows, okay? With that comes increased volume and revenue. I mentioned this briefly, but definitely increased opportunities to leverage that REO for more traditional business. And I think that's one thing, here's giving away the prize at the end, but your competition is not doing that. The majority of REO agents out there are doing the bare minimum. They're sticking a sign in the yard, they're doing their tasks, they're reporting back, but they're not leveraging that REO to build their traditional sales the way that you can, the way that asset has the potential to. So if you buy into the concepts that Josh has, that every home that you represent is your storefront, which you should, then every REO asset is your storefront and you can leverage it for a lot more business, okay? So attract buyers and sellers, increase your industry knowledge. I love being able to talk to people about REO because that's a concern that everyone has. When I'm out and I'm meeting with a traditional buyer, they want to know what the market's going to be like. Like nobody says, yeah, I think everything's going to be fine. They always actually ask you, right? They're like, hey, what's the market going to do in the next couple of years? I am asked all the time if we'll ever get back to 2007, 2008. Because I've gone through it, I can speak intelligently to it, and it just builds up my qualifications as a real estate professional. So it's going to give you that knowledge. It's definitely going to expand your professional network. And then one thing that's near and dear to me is that it allows you to protect your community values, okay? It's our responsibilities as agents to make sure that the values are protected, right? Like we get that on the listing side, we get it on the buying side. And with an REO, I know that I don't want an REO in my neighborhood that's going to sell way below market value because it's going to drag my house value down. And I definitely don't want the eyesore. I don't want the lawn to overgrow. I don't want it to be a unsafe place where my kids could go over and get in. I don't want drug activity, gang activity. I don't want any of that stuff, right? So it allows us to come in and protect our communities by being an REO agent that's going to do the right thing and protect the asset and the integrity of the property and the community and all that stuff, okay? So here's the main thing that I want you to understand, guys, is that you can do REO listings without experience. You absolutely can, okay? You can get inside, you can make contact, you can bird dog assets. Like there are ways you can get in without having contacts inside, without spending a fortune, without breaking the bank. Definitely without neglecting your existing business, and then also without any experience, okay? So I'm going to show you how to get some experience, how to leverage other people's experience for you, and then some other traditional and non-traditional ways to get your foot in the door, all right? Just to, pound my chest a little more, I've worked with so many agents all across the country. I've sold 10,000 assets. So I know what the outsourcers are looking for. I know how they select their business. I know how they set up their goals. I know how asset managers think. I know how they behave. I know how they set up their days. I know how they interact with agents. I know what their hot buttons are, right? And most importantly is this little line right here. I know what's keeping agents from getting business, right? And I want to help you avoid those pitfalls. So I promise I don't have a ton of pictures of myself. I just had some fillers that I put in, okay? But the main thing I want to reiterate time and time again is that I know what it takes to succeed in every single market, because unlike some people, I haven't only been in one market, right? Like if I'm a listing agent in Florida or Georgia or anywhere on the East Coast, and I'm telling you, here's how you get in, here's how you build it. Is that going to work for somebody in rural Tennessee? Is that going to work for somebody in rural Oklahoma or Nebraska, right? Is it going to work for Utah? Is it going to work for Colorado? Is it going to work for the East Coast, the West Coast, all that stuff? I've worked every single city, not every single city, but I've worked every state for all the different lenders. So it just allows you to have a little bit more ammo to go with it, okay? So here's what I want to go over. The process to get your assignments is very simple. First thing we're going to do is you're going to submit applications. This is a very traditional way to get into business. This is one I like. I got this from my friend Charlie Carl, who is head of property pres at VRM and was an operations manager with me for 3 years, very good friend of mine. He called it bird dog. That his thing is bird dogging local assignments. And I went with him. I had lunch with him not too long ago, a couple months ago. And I asked him, I said, Charlie, and Charlie's been in the business longer than I have. And I said, Charlie, if you had to go start your REO business today, what would you do? And this was the number one thing for him. He said he would bird dog assignments. That's what he would do. Attend in-person events. Now, this is important because I'm going to show you how you attend those correctly, because so many asset managers go in and they basically sabotage themselves. And I'm going to show you how to prevent that, okay? And then implement renegade strategies. And I call these renegade strategies because they're things that, hey guys, some you're not going to want to hear. I don't like telling them to you. You're not going to like hearing it, but it's the absolute truth. But then I also want to tell you some ways that are really thinking outside the box and nobody's really implementing or using as a way to get in, okay? So let's go over our agenda. First thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about those online applications, okay? Then we're going to talk about in-person events, and then we're going to go through those renegade strategies that I believe will help you dominate and that I have seen allow agents to dominate their space, all right? This is like we get it, right? Dead horse. So this just goes over my experience. And the reason why I have to put this in, quite honestly, is because once I put a deck together, I just start talking and then realize that I'm not following my script. And that's always been an issue with me on the operations side. I drove my VPs absolutely crazy because really, I'm very passionate about the REO stuff. and especially about agents. So if we go over some stuff and it's redundant, I apologize. Just move on with me, okay? So I spent 7 years in REO, but I wasn't just an operations manager. I wasn't just an asset manager. I was a pre-list specialist. I was an asset manager. I was a senior asset manager. For a year, I managed an eviction department for 24 different clients. I've been a sales manager and an operations manager. So within the REO world, outside of closing title, I've done everything else, okay? Like I said, just a little credibility to what I'm talking about. I've worked with the big guys, okay? Fannie, Freddie, Chase, CMC, Bank United, 3 years specifically with VA, and then a handful of smaller credit unions. I've actually been on field tours specifically with people from the JP Morgan trade desk. I've worked with hedge fund managers. So just all different varieties of people that are getting assets, like local credit unions that have like 5 a month that came through our department. And then, of course, you have like VA that had 1,500 assets a month coming through our department. So all over the spectrum. In my lifetime, sold over $1 billion worth of REO. And then, like I said, I've worked with just plenty of asset managers, prop pres vendors, executives, department heads that have now moved on to other companies. So there's some credibility to the information that I'm telling you, but then also my intention is to help you get into grow business by being able to leverage this training in your association with me and your association with Josh for some of these executives that I have, like these contacts I have that are now heading other companies and departments, okay? So here's the thing that I wanted to share with you. I talked about this a little earlier. There is a myth that REO has gone away. So I found this really cool statistic when I started putting this program together. Given it's a little dated, this is from 2016, but check this out. 2016, RealtyTrack showed that for the first 6 months, we were at over $500,000 with foreclosure, 500,000 listings with foreclosure filings. Okay, and I'm so used to saying listings. There were over 500,000 properties with foreclosure filings. Okay, default notices, scheduled auctions, bank repos in the first 6 months of 2016. Guys, that's 1 million assets a year. That is 1 million assets a year, 1 million opportunities a year for foreclosures. And this doesn't even count the stuff that the banks are still holding on to, trying to get out of eviction. Okay, it doesn't even account for some of this default stuff that I believe is coming up, because look at the trends, right? Like the banks now, there's so many buyers, the banks are competing for the buyers, so they're starting to relax their guidelines. They're starting to relax their loan to values. They're starting to relax their BK or foreclosure qualification process. They're starting to allow worse credit and lower credit scores, and they're starting to lower trade line requirements. This is everything that happened in 2004, 5, and 6. This is exactly what happened when the subprime market was created. They're just not calling it subprime now, okay? We're going to see an uptick of foreclosures, especially, guys, where people are getting into a house with no skin in the game. If you're doing, in my area in Utah, we have Utah Housing. And Utah Housing basically is an FHA program where Utah Housing comes in and says, hey, we'll pay that second for you. We'll pay your down payment in the form of a second. So it's really 100% financing. Now, if I go out and I get my buyers all their closing costs, they walked into a home for less than they would have put down if they rented it, okay? In some cases, $500 earnest money that they're getting back because they're getting a lender credit, right? When push comes to shove, they can walk away from that house because they're not vested in it. Okay, they don't look at it any different than renting. Now, somebody who's put 5% or more down, they're going to want to recoup their equity. They care about their equity. But those first-time home buyers with no skin in the game, the first 12 months, maybe even the first 24 months, if they lose a job or if they decide that they want to pack up and go somewhere else, it's not a big deal to walk away from the home. That's what concerns me when we start relaxing our down payment requirements, is that we take away that vesting, that emotional and financial vesting into a property, and we can create more foreclosure opportunities. So definitely good for you as we start going through this program, because this is the way that it's going to trend. And then we're going to have a ton of foreclosures, and then we're going to reset, and we're going to come back, and we're just going to keep going through that wave because history repeats itself. And we never really seem to learn. So no more of that. Let's dive in and talk about this. So I believe that there are 3 phases to dominating REO sales. Now, the second phase is really what this whole training is that Josh and I have put together is phase 2. And then phase 3 is basically Josh's bootcamp program, which I'm a huge fan of, and I love watching the master alumni. We're all at the top, right? Like when I come to you guys, I mean, yeah, I'm focusing on REO sales, but I also went out as an agent my first year and did $15 million in sales. So huge fan of Josh and what he brings to the table, and that's in phase 3, leveraging these REOs for traditional sales. It's a great way for you to blow up your business on both sides, okay? But what I want to talk about, today's focus is really just getting in, because it doesn't matter if you're just this incredible REO machine if you're not getting any listings, right? So let's jump into that after like 30 minutes of me just talking my ear off, so I apologize. But so here we go. I'm gonna take a breath. The biggest myth, and I know I alluded to this a little earlier, but really one of the biggest myths that I see is that people say you just can't get in. I try to get assignments, and I've told that there's no more assignments. That's one of the worst things in the world. Like, we're salespeople, right? Like, we never take that first no as the end-all, be-all no. But when it comes to REO, there's so many agents that just say, well, I went in and I submitted an application, and they said that they were full. Well, I don't give a shit. Put another application in, right? Put an application in every single month. Go to the live events. Go to the trade shows. Do some of our renegade strategies. Like, there are ways to be persistent without being a pain in the ass, okay? There are ways to have a conversation with an asset manager and still be respectful of their time. Now, depending on the market you're in and depending on your situation and your approach, it may be, I know agents who have literally just been called up, and I actually called some agents way back in the day and said, hey, I've got these listings for you. Like, it really happens like that. Once you're in the right system, it is possible that someone's going to call you and just give you listings and then give you everything. That happens. More often than not, though, you'll get that listing because a need arises and the asset manager needs somebody with your specific skill set. Okay? I sound like doing the movie monologue for Taken, but I mean, that really is it. And I'm going to show you that. That's the bird dog strategy. But let me jump into this. So the number one myth is I've tried to get assignments, and I've been told that there's no assignments, and that's just false. That's false. Okay, that's just a knee-jerk reaction. You know what? We're completely full right now. That's not true. Okay. So I've said this, but I want to reiterate. Yeah, it's harder to get in the door. It's not as easy as it was back in 2007, but if you're persistent and creative, you're going to get in. And then once you do get that opportunity, right, like we're just going to keep knocking on the door until somebody answers. And once they answer, we're going to deliver outstanding results that are going to blow everybody away. And then we're just going to keep getting fed that REO business, okay? So here's what I put together. This is one of my favorite pictures just because, I mean, it's my GSD Mo shirt, having come right from the training and meeting Josh for the first time in person, which was just a highlight. It was awesome. But this staircase right here, guys, when we bought our house, I hate this staircase. I absolutely hate it, and I destroyed it. I took it apart with an axe when we remodeled, so it's one of my favorite pictures. I don't know why I put it there. I just really like it. But anyway, here is how I would go about getting business today. If I said, hey, look, all I care about is REO. I don't know anything about the business. Here's how I'm going to get started. And that's what I would do. Number one, I would sign up for REO and BPO assignments in my area. And this is one of the keys that not a lot of people do. There are BPO companies, and even if you look at, like I worked for VRM, right? Vendor Resource Management. I was in Dallas, Texas. It was in Carrollton, just outside of Dallas. And the company was owned by PVC, it's been 2.5 years, PVC Mercor, which originally started out as an appraisal company for, like they would do independent valuations and appraisals, and then they got set up with doing them for Freddie, right? And so that was kind of like the inside to doing REO, and then eventually they opened an REO brokerage. But they also do BPOs. They're a big BPO company. There are companies that will value portfolios because every outsourcer that does REO needs a second opinion. Now, VRM does an appraisal. They do an appraisal, and it's ordered through PCV. But most of them are going to do a BPO. They're going to order a BPO and then compare it against so they're going to order a third-party BPO and compare it against the BPO that you put together, and then the asset manager is going to reconcile those values, right? So one of the great ways to get in is to sign up for local BPO assignments. And you're not going to make a ton of money. You make like $40 every time you do a BPO. But if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not familiar with completing a BPO, if you're not familiar with the REO game, and you're just trying to get in, to go out and do BPO assignments all day. That's going to give you a ton of experience. It's going to give you a ton of leverage so you can do those BPO assignments and then you can follow that asset, right? And that's going to lead into the bird dogging. If that asset is not selling, it gives you a chance to reach out to the asset manager and say, hey, I've already done the BPO for this. I came in lower than what you're listed at now. I know it's not selling. I can sell this asset for you. Okay? So the REO assignments, that's just doing an application, right? Either online or sometimes they just want you to put your resume in, and I'll go through all that. But then the biggest thing I would do is attend every industry event you can. And like I'd said, there's a right way and a wrong way about going about the industry event, and I'm going to prevent you from making mistakes that most agents make when they go. Bird dog local assignments, and really all that means is just watch for things that are aging, right? And solicit the garbage assets, right? Like take the assets nobody wants. Asking for referrals from LinkedIn, I'm going to show you some of that. And then my favorite, become an office celebrity, right? The only thing I don't have on here is partnering, okay? And I should probably partner. Let's type that in here. Partnership. Okay. There are some agents in my market right now that are doing 30, 40 million a year with REO. And I know it's hard to believe because I'm in Utah. I'm in a small market as it is. But there are agents that are out there that are actually just destroying it. And it would be very easy to go partner. And a lot of those guys are my friends. I could go partner with them. But even if I didn't, if I just moved to Phoenix and said, I'm going to come in, I'm going to dominate REO. That's part of my strategy. That's what I want to do. A tactic is to partner with somebody who's already getting REO and letting me help them and learn and grow the business and understand it and make contacts internally, and then eventually I could just go do my own thing. Okay, so that's the final way to do it there. So here's what I would do. I'm going to give you a list of 100 BPO companies and REO outsourcers so that you can actually go and you can just run through each one and you can qualify online. You can look at their website to see when they have local events or trainings or whatever they do. Now, I'm going to give you that list, and you could go through and walk all the way down it and just send something off to everybody. But what I would do, because we want you to be efficient and we want you to be effective, I would search your local MLS to see which lenders are heavy hitters. So this is just a copy of my MLS to show that I can walk in here and I can say, show me REO foreclosed or bank owned. Now, that's only if they're reported right, and they're not always reported right. But I can download that information to Excel, and then it gives me a chance to see who the heavy hitters are in my area, because it doesn't do me any good to sign up with, like I go with VRM, and VRM handling the VA account doesn't do as many loans down in like Provo, which is like 45 miles from me, 45 miles south. But I live right by the Air Force Base. So VA is around my area, right? I want to know what they are. If there's somebody on my REO list that I'm sending you and they don't have any listings in your area, that may not be the best tree to bark up. Take the ones that already have a presence or have had a presence and go after those first, and then take some of the miscellaneous ones and then start working through, like credit unions and things like that aren't going to have things on the MLS. You would do that just working through your own individual city. But the first thing we're going to do, so we're going to find out who is in our area, find out who's doing the foreclosures here, and then we're going to complete online applications, right? That's the easiest thing to do, right? They're going to need some basic information. Now, here's the thing that you'll notice. Most of them ask for the broker information. There's a lot of people that are going and they're modeling Freddie. Freddie has a relationship with the broker, and they have some requirements for how long you've had to be a broker. So what I would do, I've been a licensed agent for 2 years. Freddie's requirement is that they want a broker for 5 years. So I would actually go talk with my broker, Mike, and I would partner with him and make sure he understands my strategy to get in and dominate REO. Okay, if they were just asking for the agent, no problem. I'll just put my information in and we'll just rock and roll. But if they're asking for the broker, then I want to make sure that Mike understands what I'm trying to do and that he's on the same page as I am and that he's supporting what I'm trying to do. And if he can't do that, then I'm looking for a broker that does support it. I'm looking for somebody who can help me. So not to jump ahead, but this is where a partnership may come into play. That I may do this, or I may say, hey, look, if I'm going to have to go find a broker that supports me, maybe I just go to one of these guys that's already getting a ton of business and I come in underneath them, I learn everything I can, and I enhance their business. I start leveraging REOs, okay? There's a lot of different ways to spin this. This is just one of them, okay? But this is what I want to talk about on this one. So they're going to ask for either the agent or the broker information. They're going to ask for your license number, email address, all that stuff, just the basics, right? And this is a VRM application right here. But here's one of the most important things, guys. This is almost like, giving away the ending of the book. But this is one of the areas that is costing you the most business is this diversity information. Because outsourcers right now are looking for diversity candidates. And diversity candidates, there's quite a few. Veteran-owned, woman-owned, minority-owned, right? GLBT owned. I mean, look at all these different things. And I will tell you this right now. So this is part of that medicine that you may not like, but it's good for you. You need to hear it. If even with all the experience that I have, it's possible that I would lose an application to somebody who comes in and can hit one of these diversity requirements. Okay, if it's a veteran-owned, VA wants to go with that. VA would rather work with a veteran-owned without them proving their ability at all. Because when they run their numbers, they can say, here's how many veterans we have that are broker owners, right? And it doesn't just impact it here with the agents, it actually impacts it with the vendor network too. And I have seen that. I've seen companies give away huge amounts of assets, like literally reassign 1,000 assets or more to a prop pres vendor simply because they hit one of the diversity requirements. The vendor didn't know what they were doing and it turned into this huge debacle, but we were able to report back to the client and say, hey, here's our diversity breakdown. Here's how diversified we are. Now, there are some places like Freddie Mac, when you go fill out their application, it actually says that Freddie Mac prefers diversity candidates. Like it says it right out there. So with this one, like VRM isn't going to say they prefer it. They're going to ask for it. But internally, they prefer it. Freddie Mac is going to come right out and say, we prefer it. We would rather. Now, here's the thing that I want to get at. If you're not a woman-owned business, you're not going to put that you're woman-owned. Like, this is incredibly important. And this may get into a little bit of the gray area. But here's the thing. I don't think that you should ever be dishonest to get into business. Okay? I really don't. I think that's going to come back to you. I think that the law of reciprocation is going to pay negative dividends on that. But here's the one that I want to point out. Is the business minority-owned? Right? And this is the one that I always get. Like, when people ask, like, your diversity, right? They ask like Caucasian or what ethnicity are you, what background? And it may sound like it's in jest, but I'm not saying this in jest. Unless you have actually gone through Ancestry.com and you know what your exact lineage is, you don't know. You absolutely do not know. Like a lot of people would not know that I have part Indian in me, right? But I go through everything and I just check Caucasian. Well, that's not accurate and it's preventing business, okay? So unless you actually have a report in your hand that says, yep, here we go, 100% Danish or whatever. And even then, you weren't born here, right? So I'm just saying you've got to look at these qualifications and you've got to say, how can I make this fit? How can I make this work for me, right? The biggest one is that ethnicity, okay? So you got to stop and you got to take a look back and you got to say, look, I mean, to me, nobody really knows, right? We're all mixed. We're all completely mixed. But if you can hit those qualifications, that's what you need to lead with. That's what you need to go with because it is going to make a difference, okay? When I talk about partnering, if I don't have a broker that I can go partner with that's already in the business, I'm going to go partner with a diversity candidate. And I have seen this happen, guys. I've seen this happen when companies try to sell, like when REO outsourcers, I've been with an REO outsourcer that tried to sell the business. And they specifically went out and looked for diversity candidates to partner with because it makes the package that much more attractive when they went to sell the company. It's the same thing when you're setting yourself up. And I don't like that. I think that we should all be judged on our own merits. But if that's the game, if those are the rules, then you need to know that so that you can meet those, so you can exceed those, okay? And what's funny is this person I was talking about earlier, without saying who I'm talking about, but the person I was talking about earlier, I know for a fact that they have contacts with a huge REO agent that is woman-owned. So their strategy, the way they correct that, is they re-partner with that person so that now they hit this diversity and now they get more of the assets, okay? So I know I'm beating a dead horse by saying it over and over again. I wish it didn't exist like that, but that's the truth. And that's what nobody's going to tell you, right? Like Freddie may come out and they say, we prefer diversity candidates, but they're not coming out and telling you that no matter how good you are, if you don't hit this qualification, it's possible you won't get any assets. And I'm telling you right now, if you can't hit those diversity qualifications, it's an uphill battle for you. So take that into consideration as you fill out your applications and as you go after business, okay? All right, there are some places, like I love this for Phoenix. This is a local company too. Phoenix Asset Management, look, to be part of their network, just email. That's it. Take your resume and email it. Now, I like this a little more because then you can actually go in and you can put a really strong resume together with your experience. You can highlight what you can do and what you bring to the table. And it's more of a blind, it's like submitting a resume, right? It's blind. It's a little more blind than filling out all these things where you either have to lie about diversity or you have to partner with somebody before you send it in. And with this, you're just sending in your resume. So it's worth it, if you haven't, it's worth it to spend $100 to have a professional resume writing service write your REO resume. Absolutely. And I know Josh has some templates that we can use that are going to help you. But I'm a big fan of getting coaching and getting professional help. Every job I've gone for, I've had a company come in and write my resume for them. I just give them my highlights. They write it for me. Works out really well. Okay. Now, attending industry events. Now, here's what's really fun. This is VRM. And I know we can't see it. So these are VRM's colors. But this is Michelle. Oh, that's so funny. Because Michelle was on my team. And Michelle, this is what's so funny about this business. When I was at Green River Capital as an asset manager, Michelle worked for EMC and she was my asset manager. So she was technically my boss. And then I moved to Dallas and became an operations manager for VRM. And Michelle came over and she worked for me on my team as one of the asset managers. So that's how small this industry is. But here's what I wanted to point out. There are ways to attend this and there are ways not to. So look at this sappy face here. He's not a really happy camper. When you go to an event like this is at 5-Star in Dallas, which you should go to. It's once a year. When you go to an event, you are not going to solve a problem unless you have so many assets you don't know what to do with. As a new agent or as an agent looking to build their business, when you go to an event like this, you're there to make a positive impression on every single person you meet. When you're attending an industry event, there are great ways to attend it. You've got to go in with the attitude that you're out there to make friends and influence people. That's what you're there to do. You're in there to leave a great impression, to laugh, to be witty, to be personable, to be well-groomed, absolutely well-groomed. Now I'm going to give you a little secret. All the people in this photo that are wearing the white there, they work for VRM, they don't want to be there. Right? Like as we go, this was a really big deal. And I was really surprised because when I was with Green River, I was there for 4 years and I always heard about 5-Star. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so amazing. And then I went to Dallas and nobody wanted to go to 5-Star. And I just couldn't believe it. Why does nobody want to go? And then I realized why. Because you go, you stand there, it's uncomfortable. It could be boring. This is just in like the vendor area, the vendor village here. And you listen to agents that aren't getting business come up and complain about not getting assets. Right? And that's one of the worst things when someone comes up and confronts an asset manager or an ops manager is like, I live in this area, this person down the street keeps getting business, why don't I get business? Like, I don't know, why don't you? I don't give a shit who you are. And that's really the outlook. So you want to go in, you want to have a good time. This guy not having a good time, this guy having a good time. And that's how you really want to approach it, okay? Now, here's the nice thing. The nice thing about attending these events is you see this right here, join our network. You can go right over there and sign up immediately, and you can start talking about your expertise and your area and your network and your specialty and everything about you. And you can actually walk through this, and you can see all the major players in this conference event, and now you're putting a face to a name. That's a big deal. On the other side of the equation, I know that it was harder for me as an ops manager and an asset manager to fire an agent that I'd met in person than it was just somebody who was just on the phone with me, because they weren't real to me, right? But if I had met you, if I've had conversations with you, if I've laughed with you, you're a real person, and now it's more difficult for me to make that decision when it comes to removing assets or disciplinary things, okay? It's incredibly important that you go attend these industry events. Now, here was the big thing too, is that by going to Dallas, VRM is in Dallas, and they were doing a thing at the very same time where for $99 you could actually go over to VRM and do a one-day BPO training. And not a lot of agents did this. I was blown away for how many agents are in VRM's network. Only a handful of people showed up to this training for the $99. What they didn't realize is at the end, they took all the top asset managers and they walked them down and introduced them to every single person who had done the training. So if an agent had gone to Dallas, had filled out this application here, had heard about the training, and had made plans to go, they would have immediately known everybody, done the training, and really fast-tracked their career with VRM, okay? Let's see where I'm at. Now, see, I told you the secret. But really, let me reiterate this. Don't gripe, don't complain, don't tell war stories. This is an interview. You've got to be personable. Shake hands, laugh, tell stories, get to know these people, but asset managers can tell insincerity. Now, here's one of my favorite stories from Green River. The first time we held this symposium, and they started doing it annually, and anybody who's in the network could come to this, right? And we held it in Salt Lake. And everybody wanted to know who Jason Elada was. That's all they wanted to know. Where's Jason? Where's Jason? All the agents that showed up just wanted to meet Jason. Well, all the assignments, the welcome emails came from Jason, but he was just an admin. So it would just round robin and he'd send it out. He had no decision-making abilities whatsoever. But so many agents came in and actually bypassed the asset managers to go over and find Jason and talk to him. And he was the most popular guy at the event that could do absolutely nothing to help your business. And it was hilarious. So when you're going, know who you're talking to, meet everybody, but be personable, right? Shake hands. It's an interview, okay? This is one thing that I've always really liked, and this is how I approach my traditional business too, and it's been incredibly beneficial. You need to be interested, but not interesting, right? Like the best way to get an asset manager to like you is let them tell you about it themselves, right? We love to talk about ourselves. Like I've been doing it for forever on these programs, right? We love to talk about ourselves. So if an asset manager is telling you something important to them, if they're telling you about their 3 kids, you're not going to interject and tell stories of your kids or your 4 kids, right? We're not going to one up. And it's so funny that I think we've all been around people who are kind of like the negative people in the group that always have something worse, right? Like if you talk about your car breaking down for a day, they have a story where they had to take a bus for 3 months because their car didn't work. And I'm not going to go into the psychology of it, but they get a significance by having bad things happen to them. Well, we do it on the other side as well. What I mean by that is that when somebody starts talking about things that we can relate to, guys, we're all narcissistic, and we start talking about our things. So if an asset manager is telling me about their 3 kids and how funny they are, I only want to tell them that I have kids too so I can relate. Oh, I understand that 100%. I have 3 kids, all under 6 at home. But I don't want to start telling them stories that will detract from what they were trying to tell me. They're trying to tell me their story. They don't give a shit about my story. Like that's like interaction one-on-one. That's like sales one-on-one, mirroring people, right? Like if I'm sitting here talking to you like this, then you're going to sit and talk to me like that. And if I slow down my speech, you're going to slow down your speech when you're talking to me. But if an asset manager is talking really fast, and a lot of them talk fast like this, that's how you're going to want to respond to them, okay? It's like nails on a chalkboard. If an asset manager is saying, oh, that's awesome, I love Utah, where are you from in Utah? And you start saying, well, have you seen the South, like the South part of, it's hard for them. You want to mirror their pace, really just mirror them. But again, let them talk about themselves. Don't go in griping, don't go in complaining. Unless you have business, you're not looking for them to solve any problems. And most likely the person you need to solve your problem is not there. But what I found amazing about the industry events is all these people that wanted this business, and agents would use these strategies that I'm going to go over with you here. And I remember coming away from my first 5-star and being incredibly disappointed at how many people I did not meet. Agents that had called me or had sent me things or had received 1 or 2 assets, or I'd talked to them on the phone, and they didn't come to an event that was in my own backyard, and then they didn't come to the training. Had they come to the training, we probably could have had lunch, we could have had dinner, we could have built a stronger relationship, and they'd get more business than just onesie-twosies, okay? So treat it like an interview. My suggestion is that you go to every live event that you can. And let me just check here, because I don't think I put it down, and I really want to stress this. Attend outsourcer events. So I've got it down here a little bit more. Yeah, so I'm going to save this for the outsourcer events. Well, I'll probably forget. So let's just jump to this. Here's a renegade strategy that I want you to think about. Now, this isn't going to work for everybody, and I understand this isn't going to work for everybody. But every single outsourcer that you're trying to get in touch with and you're trying to get business from, they are all going to have something that's near and dear to their hearts, okay? So for VRM, it was the Seeds of Hope. Absolutely love the Seeds of Hope. In fact, let's jump up. Oh, I don't think it's going to do that. All right. Okay. PCV. This is VRM's. This is their baby. They love it. This is the Seeds of Hope. So they'll actually go in to different communities. They have somebody who's dedicated to just manage this. Someone like a director in charge of the Seeds of Hope. Tells you what their mission is, a report on what they've done there, what they do. And now this is what I want to point out. This is what they do. These are toys drives they do. So this is in VRMs. This is in their lobby right here, right? They're doing, and it's funny because she's the cleaning lady. She's hilarious. But this is inside VRM's lobby. This lady right here, Cheryl, is basically the president of the entire company. So if there was somebody who wanted to, and I know I really feel like I'm getting off base, but this is so important and I didn't put it in the deck. If I was in Texas and I wanted to get the business from VRM, I would attend every single one of these events that they have for the Seeds of Hope. I would make sure that everybody knew that I wanted to participate in that. So if they were building something, right? If they're building something, I'm there. If they're doing this toy drive for kids, I want to be there. I want to sponsor a tree. I want to be involved in the things that they care about, okay? And I want to show up. I want to be in the photos. I want to volunteer and donate my time. I want to donate my money. It's not just because I'm trying to get all the business. I mean, that's one of the reasons, but it's also the right thing to do. It's a great way to give back. But by doing that, you get to interact. These are both sales managers. Okay, these two are sales managers. She'll be a director one day, Erin. This is a great way to get in and grow your business, make contacts within the outsourcers that you're trying to get business from, right? For me, it's an absolute no-brainer. But here's another way that I think that you can show up, okay? So that's their Angel True program. Another way that I think that you can show up is, so for Green River, what they do is they're always going to, I mean, this just blew me away, but I think it was the first year that we did this. They actually auctioned off time with the asset managers, like lunch with the executives, right? And I remember this guy came in from Las Vegas, and nobody had ever heard of him, but he bid the most in this silent auction, and he won a day at Green River Capital. So for whatever he paid, I think I had heard it was like $4,000 or $5,000, something like that. He came in and was personally escorted to every single asset manager's desk, the vendor managers, and we started feeding him business because they were like, this guy just spent a fortune to come in and see us. We've got to compensate him somehow. And I'm not saying that that's always going to happen, because there's no rule that says if you spend $10 on me, I'm going to give you back $10 in business. But it was a way for him to get in when nobody else was there. It was a way for him to stand out. So you may say, well, I don't have $5,000. I can't do something like that. I can't bid this to go in and spend all that money just to get my foot in the door. And I understand that 100%. Another thing that Green River does is whenever they have their annual event, they have a charity that they like to support. So they will say, one year it was like abandoned pets from foreclosed properties, right? Another one, they do like the Christmas box house, and it's for kids to have Christmas and like toys for school or like school supplies and things like that. So every year they take it as an opportunity to raise money for an event that's near and dear to their heart. And I know one year they were selling basically for $250 you could sponsor a kid. You could sponsor one kid for $250, and then they put your name on a little card, and they had it at this real estate symposium. If I come in and I say one, that's great, but I'm mixed in with hundreds of other people that are doing the exact same thing. But if I can come in and I can sponsor 10 kids, or I can sponsor 20 kids, that's going to get everybody in the office talking. Okay, now that's part of my become an office celebrity, but I want to point that out. That's why you attend these outsourcer events, because it gives you face time. It gives you a chance to go out and sell yourself. It gives you a chance to meet the people that are making decisions about whether or not to reassign assets or bring in new vendors or anything like that. Okay, it's important that you go. It's important that you know what's important to the outsourcer that you're trying to get into, and it's important that you get face time and become a member of that community, whatever their community is. Okay, so I'm going to move this back up here so we don't forget it. Okay, be interested but not interesting. I already did that. Now, bird dog. This is Charlie's favorite thing, and I love the bird dog thing. Catch pricing and marketing errors at the beginning, and then follow through with them and be persistent. So with your MLS, depending on different things that you can do, depending on different tools available to you, I know in mine I can flag assets and I can monitor them and I can watch them and I can see what's happening. So I could have a daily report that comes to me that shows me all the REO listings, and I can sort it by days on market, right? So now I'm looking at anything that's plus 30, anything that's plus, not even plus 30. Typically reductions are taken within the first 15 to 30 days, no more than 35 days after initial list. So if I have a report that's flagging assets that are 20 days on the market and still active, I can start looking at those, completing my own valuation of it, and then sending that to the asset manager. Hey, Mr. Asset Manager, I noticed that this asset has been on the market for this long. Here's why I think you're not getting any offers. Here's who I am. Here's what I can do. No, I'm not in the system, but I would love to get in and register and take care of that for you. Or, yeah, I'm already in your system. I could take that assignment, no problem. And then you just keep watching it and you keep bird dogging it. Because the asset managers, and we go over this on the KPIs, the key performance indicators, the number one focus for the asset manager is turn rate. It's net recovery, right? Net recovery. So I know we've talked about this before. Make sure you guys can see me here. Net recovery is also known as net X. Net execution, okay? There are a lot of ways that people calculate it, but one of the number one ways is sales price divided by initial value. So in our example, if my initial value was $100,000, right? If my initial value is this $100,000, I know I'm going to get better at these one day, I swear. It's like you can barely see my stuff here. If my initial value is $100,000 and I get 30 days on the market and I have to make a reduction to $90,000, even if I had somebody come in at full list and give me $90,000, I have to take my sales price of $90 and divide it by my initial list price, my initial value of $100. So I'm only at 90% net X, not 90 divided by 90, not 100%. That's a current list price, not initial value. Okay, so asset managers absolutely hate doing price reductions. They hate it. It's probably one of the worst things in the world to do, because here's one thing I taught as an operations manager. It was very easy for us to go through and just bang out tons of valuations, and we had to do that. When VRM took over the VA account, we had some asset managers that were writing 30 market strategies a day because we had so many that we had to revalue. They all came from Bank of America, and we had to do new valuations on them and figure out new strategies for them and then take them to the market. So it's easy to go through once you get into a groove and just cruise through. And I used to time myself when I was an asset manager and made a game of it. And it would take me I knew that if it was taking me more than 12 minutes to complete a market strategy, that there was something I was hung up on and I needed to take a break and come back to it. But as an ops manager, I taught my team to put in extra time, and I taught this to every asset manager that ever came through our training department, and anyone that ever came to my team, put in the extra time with your market strategy initially. Because if I have to, I've erased everything. If I have to reduce it in 30 days, now I have to look at a monthly marketing report, maybe a new BPO. I have to look at all my offers. I have to research why this thing hasn't sold. And then I have to put together a new market strategy, and I have to support it. And if my new value is bad, like if my initial value was 100K and now I'm coming back and saying, hey, I think that we're worth 80,000, I have just destroyed my net recovery. And now as an asset manager, that impacts my monthly bonus, because my monthly bonus is tied to my KPIs, and one of them is net recovery or net X. So I would always tell the asset managers, put in the extra time up front so that the asset is going to be priced right with the right market strategy, with the right repairs for the right target buyer, so that you don't have to redo it. So a very hot button for asset managers is any asset that is sitting on the market for more than 30 days, because now they're going to have to reduce it, and it's going to impact their net X, and it's going to take up their time. That is the perfect opportunity for you to walk in and say, hey, by the way, I've done a valuation of this property. Here's the comps that I used. Here's why I think that home's not selling. It's on a busy road. I don't know if you knew, I don't know if you're, okay, so like, you've got to remember this. I'm in Utah right now. If I was working an account with Green River, they would understand some of the nuances of the area that I'm in. But Green River is also in Salt Lake, which is 30 miles from where I am. I'm up north in Layton. So if there's an asset up here, the asset manager may not be familiar with Layton, so they may not know how Highway 89 impacts values, or how Church Street does, or how 193. None of this stuff, right? Well, the same is true if I'm working with VRM in Texas, and I'm writing a valuation here. The other agent may not have done a good job of explaining how some of our roads work, right? Or what the traffic patterns are, or that there are no jobs up in Layton. I mean, there's jobs, but all the jobs are in Salt Lake and people are traveling. So if I'm watching the REO assets and I can see the ones that are sitting on the market, if I flag them at 15 or 20 days on market, it gives me time to go in and invest my time and do a thorough market strategy that I can then send to the agent, to the asset manager. So instead of me just saying, hey, your properties aren't moving, I'm coming with a solution. I'm saying, hey, Mr. Asset Manager, I've done this valuation. I think you're $10,000 off on price. I know that's going to impact your net X, and I apologize, but I really think that's what you need to do to sell. And because we're going to teach you about KPIs, and we're going to teach you what's important to an asset manager, there's ways to come in and actually say that. I know you're going to take a hit on your net X, but I believe I can get under contract in 14 days so I can save your days on market. Or if this asset happens to be an aged asset, we'll be able to get that off your books this month, okay? There's ways to approach the asset managers when bird dogging assets that will make them go sign up. And here's not make them go sign up, they'll make them want to give the asset to you. Now here's why this is so important. Asset managers, and I'm trying to think of an ops company that is different, but all the ones that I've worked with now have a vendor management department, right? And they're starting to do this separation between the asset managers and the vendor management department. So vendor management sets everybody up. They're the ones that handle the applications, that make sure you have your E&O and everything's in there, your licenses up to date and accurate, all that information, right? So it's harder to get an initial assignment, 10 times easier to get a reassignment, which would come from a bird dog. Okay, because now when you call the asset manager and this one's got an aged one, I can call and I can call vendor management and say, hey, I have an agent in this area that I want this asset assigned to. And then they'll say, oh, he's not in our system. Okay, great. Get an application out, get it in, get him approved. I need it over in the next 5 days. That's how the business works. That's how it works on the backside. So this bird dogging, this is why Charlie likes it so much, because this is one of the most effective ways to get in. And now you're not waiting for any lag, right? Like you're walking in and you're getting an asset that's already been listed. And remember, this is part of our KPIs. But now your value is going to be based, or your performance is going to be based on your initial value. So even if they set it at 100 initially and you came in at 70,000 as your value, for your performance metrics, it's run off your 70K. Okay, so now you're taking advantage of a price reduction too. So bird dogging is one of the best ways to do it. And I'm not saying it's going to work the first time, right? You're not going to just put one together and get every single asset. But get in the habit of doing this. It's going to make you a common name and face with the asset managers. It's going to give them some valuable insight, which I guarantee they will remember the next time they're doing a property in your area. And it's also going to give you experience, because now if I'm a relatively new agent and I'm bird dogging assets, I'm going to spend every morning writing valuations and market strategies. And then if, let's say I don't even submit them yet, let's say I don't really know how this is going to work. Well, I'm going to take all my new REO listings every day and I'm going to write my own value for them. And then I'm going to watch those assets. I'm going to see what it sells for, right? And I'm going to see what my own net X was and how close I was. And if I missed it, send it to me, send it to Josh, let's take a look at it. Or within your own group, your brokerage, to look at your values and say, what am I missing? How did I miss this value? I promise it's going to give you experience that you're going to need when you get into working with an asset manager, because experience doesn't matter as much when, and this is so funny, experience doesn't matter as much when you're filling out the application, but when you get in and you get your first assignment, it is the most important thing. And I hate to say this because this is, I hope the karma never comes back on me, but I have moved huge portfolios, 20 assets from one agent in the same day, because they weren't meeting their metrics and it was impacting me, and I moved them all to other people. Okay, number one way to get assets is bird dog this and get reassignments. Okay, said this already. Send the valuations to the asset manager, monitor the asset, pounce. I say 30 days on the market, but we're going to change this up, because really at 30 days you're going to send it, but at 20 days you should be preparing your market strategy. Okay. This is a great one. Solicit the garbage assets, right? Like especially if you can manage being in a rough area. There are some areas where the agents will not go without a police escort. So if you're comfortable doing that, if you have experience with that neighborhood, if you're able to go there without worrying about being shot, you can pick up those assets, right? And some of those assets are fantastic for you, because most outsourcers are going to have a minimum commission, right? So let's say that the standard commission is 2.5% to you, and then maybe you get back 0.5% or 1% to the asset management company, right? On these lower value ones, if there's like VRM had a minimum commission of $1,500, so if the commission to you wasn't $1,500, at least $1,500, that's what you would get. So could you go out and sell $20,000 assets all day to get a $1,500 commission? Yeah, absolutely. But not a lot of people will if it's in neighborhoods that they're afraid of or they're not familiar with. This is a good way to jump in and pick these assets up if you're comfortable with it. I mean, by all means, never do anything that you're uncomfortable with or that's going to jeopardize your safety. But I know agents who have made a ton of money simply because they have connections in these communities and they're able to go and leave safely, whereas another agent maybe wouldn't have, okay? I saw this in California a lot in the gang areas, that somebody who had grown up around that was able to go in and they were able to take photos, occupancy inspections, personal property inspections without getting shot. So this is a great way to get in. It's a great way to get the business, because you're not going to get resistance from the agent that's losing it, right? Like if I'm an agent and I'm terrified to go down to this certain area and the asset management company calls me and they say, hey, we've got another agent that can take that asset, is that okay? I'm like, hell yeah, because I don't want to have to keep going there. And they just gave you a foot in the door, okay? Solicit those garbage assets. I guarantee it will come out, and it will pay you handsomely with new referrals, especially if the asset manager is having a hard time moving that, because they're going to remember it. Because remember, at some point, net X is just shot, right? But I can always get another part of my KPI. So if net X is shot, I need that asset to sell so it's not part of my aged inventory, so it doesn't impact my aged KPI. And so I don't have to sit through an aged meeting. And I'm going to talk about those in a different module. One of the worst experiences you can ever go through as an asset manager is an aged meeting. And I went through my first one 2 weeks into my own portfolio and got torn apart by the client and the owner of the company, like just embarrassed. Like I didn't want to come back to work the next day. This is your job. Your job is to make life easier for the asset manager, and that's one way to do it. Solicit these garbage assets, okay? If you can't get their net X back, which you probably won't because it's too low, right? If a property is $25,000 and I go to $20K, I've already blown my net X. But I can save days on market. Okay, I can prevent that from going to an auction. And yes, there are auctions. Even though you go through the foreclosure auction or the trustee's sale, there are still auctions within the REO world if a property hasn't sold, or it's a low value asset, or it's deemed an undesirable property. We'll call it garbage. Okay. All right, that's what I just mean. Take the home that nobody else wants and then just dominate it. Okay. This is one of the fastest ways to get assets too, because it's an area where agents aren't even paying attention to them. Like, they just don't care. It's scary for them. They don't want to be there. This and bird dogging are the fastest way to get those assignments. Okay. Another thing you can do is go through your referrals from LinkedIn. Like, find out who's in the business, because guys, once you get in, everybody that works for outsourcers, they tend to just stay within the business. Like, it's a big deal to become an asset manager. So once you're an asset manager, most of them will only leave for a move-up position or an asset management position with another company, right? So you want to leverage your LinkedIn profile. So if I was to go to mine and ask for key introductions, and I just pulled this up because I wanted to see who I had, look at the people that are in mine from this. I got a senior asset manager, an REO director, asset manager, default consulting, right? Sales manager at Green River. Reach out to them and saying, hey, and we'll have templates for this, but to let them know that you're in the business. They know you. You know my attention to detail. You know my experience. You know my professionalism. You know that I care about maintaining the integrity of my community. Reach out, because guys, we're just a couple referrals away from everybody that's in charge of these big decisions, right? Like, if I'm asking Mike for a referral at Green River and I'm asking Amy for a referral at Green River, I could ask everybody I'm connected with at Green River, and eventually somebody's going to take me to the right person and I'm going to get in. Okay, it's the same thing with every other company. All right. Could also be a great way to jump in and say, hey, who do I know that's an REO broker in the area, and maybe I go partner with them, right? So you want to leverage this. Leverage your network. Know who your Facebook friends are that are asset managers or working in that business. Here's one of my favorites, though, and there's a right way to do this and there's definitely a wrong way to do this, but become an office celebrity. And here's what I mean by this, and this is I'm just gonna warn you right now, this is gonna sound a little cheesy, but I promise this works 100%. Okay, send treats. It's funny to think that this is the multi-billion-dollar industry, and one of the best ways is to send treats. But that's exactly true. That's exactly how it works, and here's why. Okay, if you send a gift card, like let's say that I'm working with Mike Ludi, right? Mike's this guy, and Mike is a great guy, great friend of mine. I actually brought him from California as an entry-level position when I was with Green River, and he's worked his way all the way up to a senior asset manager. So if I want to send something to Mike and I want to say, hey, Mike, can't wait to work with you, blah, 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 and I send him like a $5 Starbucks card. Something simple, right? It's not anything really big. If I send him that $5 Starbucks card, it's going to be confiscated by the mailroom, and it's going to be put into a huge pile of gift cards that they give away at Christmas parties or events, or they donate or something like that. If you send anything with a monetary value, it's going to get picked up and it's going to get discarded. They can't do that with the treats. That's why you send those. That's what gets in. They can't take this edible arrangement and say, I'm going to hold that off till Christmas. So here's the thing that always happened to me as an ops manager. I'd be sitting at my desk, and all of a sudden Erica from mailroom will come drop off this huge box of cookies, right? And she would say, here, these are from so-and-so in Tennessee. And I would look at the cookies, and the first thing I would think is, well, how many of these can I eat? And I would set those aside. But then I'm looking at another 120 cookies, and I don't know what to do with them. So the first thing I would do is I would take them to my asset managers. And I'd make sure every asset manager got one, and I'd leave one on the desk. So if you see something like this where they can actually put your logo on it, I'm leaving one of those for every single asset manager. Then, if they're left over, I take them and I start giving them to the closing people first, because I want the closers to like me and my team and to work harder for us. I take them to title, I take them to the repair team or to the prop pres team. I take them to the vendor management team. I take one back to the mailroom, right? It always amazed me whenever we did this. So many asset managers would say, who is this? Who sent this to us? And they would send them thank yous, or they'd call them, or they'd email them. Hey, thanks so much for sending that over. And it's not even in their territory. But they would remember this. And it's a small price to pay to have all the asset managers coming around asking, who is this? So edible arrangements are great. Cakes, cookies. lunch, it just amazes me what people will do for free food. Like, they will climb over each other to get to free food. So if there's a possibility that you could come in and you're talking to a vendor manager and you say, hey, look, you're in Texas, I'm in Texas, I want to get the business, I really want to help you out, here's my experience, I would love to be able to come and talk to you guys and tell you what I've got, and I can cater lunch. Or I'd love to talk to the asset managers, give them a market update, so now you're adding value. Let me give you a market update, and by the way, I can bring lunch. When you say, by the way, I can bring lunch, it's like an automatic invitation saying, yeah, absolutely, come in the door. This is more important than sending calendars, because a lot of people will flip through the calendar and toss it in the garbage. Magnets are always good. Monetary things, gift cards, always get confiscated, so those are no good. Food, treats, candies, they always get there. They always get to the asset managers. They always get to the ops managers. It's a great way to get in, to get noticed. Attach your card to it, attach something to it, put a magnet so that in their cubicles they can put a magnet up to something. That's how you get noticed as an office celebrity with that stuff, okay? But you can't do it once. Maybe once a quarter. You've got to get it so that people start recognizing your name, okay? All right. And I talked about this. I've forgotten I had this down here. You know how I do this by now, but buy your way in. And this is what we talked about. Support those charities, right? Volunteer for outsourcer events that they do. VRM, Seeds of Hope, does a golf tournament every year. Volunteer. Collect tickets, right? Little things that you can do to be a part of it, to be engaged. Sponsor an angel tree, like take one of those during Christmas time, or take somebody for take them out and do the school shopping, right? Like, that's how you get in, is that you support the things that are important to them and do it from a place of sincerity, and I guarantee that it's going to pay you back 10, 100 times over. And then win auction events. If you ever hear that they're auctioning off a trip to the office, do everything within your means to win that trip, because it's going to pay off, okay? Guilt alone will make them give you an asset, or at least put you in the system and make you eligible for assets. And guys, as we go through this, that's all we're asking for. We're asking for an opportunity. And I want to make sure I'm clear on that. If you get in and you get an assignment and you don't listen to the stuff that Josh and I are teaching you, and you can't pull your own weight and you can't deliver and you don't know how to value a property, you've got to learn these things so that you're valuable. We're here to help you get your foot in the door, but then also understand the business, right? Master these things like valuations. And I'm going to walk you through. I was great at valuations, and I'm great now. I will show you how I value a property. And then if you don't learn from that, that's on you. But I'm going to give you the tools for that. The whole point of all of this is to get in the door. And once you get in, we're going to show you how you can win that business time and time again, okay? So this isn't for everybody. Not everybody has the money that they can say, I'm going to buy my way into it. I understand that 100%. I'm just saying it is a tactic that people that you're competing against are using, okay? So do whatever you want with that. But then strategic partners, we talked about this at the very beginning. I beat it with a stick. But everybody, the majority of the operations, the ops, the outsourcers, when I talk too long, I start forgetting things. The majority of the outsourcers are looking to check off their diversity qualifications, okay? You've got to find a way to either check one of those boxes off for you or partner with somebody who can. Now, that's not always the case, okay? I'm making blanket statements, and I'm not saying that's how everybody's going to react, because they're not. It may not be important to some people. But if it's important to the outsourcer you're going after, you've got to be able to check it off or start looking for people who can check it off, okay? My wife's an agent. If I was saying, you know what, we're going to go after all the REO business here, I would make her the point of contact, and then I would put my experience as a sales manager. Like, that's what I would be. Yep, Kim is our agent, but I'll show you that I manage our REO. I'm the director of REO for Barbershop Homes, and here's my experience, right? And then I can play on my experience, and I can play on my connections, but we'd be able to check off the diversity because Kim would own the business, and it's a woman-owned business. Okay, which is what we do because it just helps us with loans and everything too. Play the game, okay? I wish it was different. It's not. Play the game. That's what you need to do. If you need to partner with the right people. The one thing that's not in here is that, guys, if you want to make a fortune, like I'll be honest with you, because in Utah I don't have a ton of REO unless I go 3 hours down to Vernal, okay? If I said, hey, it's important for me to grow my REO business, this is what I'm going to do, and this is something I may do when things turn. I have a ton of connections in Florida, ton of connections in Arizona, in Nevada, in California. Kim and I would basically say, where do we want to go? And we would go get our license in that area and partner with the biggest REO brokers, and we'd go make a fortune, right? There's nothing saying the business has to come to you. You can go to business, right? It's the same reason I left Green River and moved to Texas to work for VRM, because VRM had the assets. They got the new account. It was a great opportunity, and that's where all the outsourcers were going. And Kim and I sat and we said, look, if we're going to be in REO, if we're going to be in this business, if we're going to be on the operations side, we need to go to where the business is. And it was a great move. Coming back to Utah, I knew there wasn't a ton of REO. And so I said, well, that's not going to be my forte for a while. I'm going to go be a traditional agent. And if we decide that we want to go after the REO business, we will move where the REO business is. And we know that already. We would go to Arizona or we'd go to Florida. Like that's what we whittled down to, or we'd go back to Texas where we already know people and could already go right into VRM and get assignments. Okay. So you may have to move, but this is your job, right? Like, nah. I'm not going to say anything more about it. You do whatever you have to be successful, right? Sometimes that's partnering with people. Sometimes it's being on your own. Sometimes it's moving to where the business is, right? Fishermen don't go fish the water that they're used to if there are no fish. They go to where the fish are. You may have to do that, okay? And I haven't written that down, but you may have to go to where the REO assets are, especially when the market turns, which it will, okay? All right. What else do we got? And then I'll just hit this again. Diversify. Can't say it enough. Diversify, diversify, diversify. If you can click off any of these boxes you want to, and if not, look at a partner that can. Okay. Now, here's one of the things, and this is a big shot. This is a far fetch, and I understand that, but it is a strategy. Become an owner, right? When we're talking about bird dogging these assets, if I'm looking at a property that's in a really shitty area and it's in horrible condition and it's a cash only, I may want to call the asset manager and buy it. Hey, you know what? Let me just get that off your books. And I put this on here because this is how I've seen outsourcers get business from clients. I've seen the president of a company sit down during an aged asset meeting and we start rolling through assets that are really a pain in the butt. And these are low value homes. There's nothing we can do with them. And I've heard the owner say, well, how much is that one? And we say, well, we're listed at $4,500. He goes, okay, I'm going to buy that. Take it off. What's next? And he bought the asset and then donated it to the fire department or the police department to go in and do training on. But it always stood out to the client that we took care of this asset. When there was nothing else to do, we stepped up and we took care of it. You may not be able to do that. I understand that 100%. But what I'm saying, the whole point of this is saying, offer solutions. You've got to be able to come in and offer solutions. So we have given you some basic strategies of going in and doing the traditional stuff, filling out online applications, putting a really good resume together, and then we start going to industry events, attending online trainings, right? And then the non-traditional stuff like becoming an office celebrity, bird dogging assets, taking garbage assets, becoming vested emotionally, physically, and financially vested in the things that are important to the outsourcer, like their charity events, like their charity projects, definitely winning auctions if you can, or at least sponsoring things, being a panel member if you can ever do that, and just becoming, we always call it becoming sticky, right? Like you want to be involved in their business as much as you possibly can, okay? And then the very last one is like really just thinking outside the box. Become an owner if it's within your ability to do so. If not, that's fine. Not a lot of people can, but the ones that can are really going to stick out. And then if you have to, the fastest way in is make the right partnerships. And when I say that, like I've harped on diversity a lot. And really what I want to convey is that it's not always a diversity move, right? Like sometimes it's just saying, if I'm a newer agent and they're asking for a broker with 5 years experience, and this is the path that I want to do because I realize the value in it, then it's probably worth it to go partner with a broker that's already getting that business and to come in and now learn the business, get totally entrenched in it, build up my reputation for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then I've got the connections and the experience to go out on my own and continue dominating. And guys, the people in the REO world, I know one gentleman came and it blew me away. We said, how much are you doing? He said, well, this year we'll do $50 million in REO sales, $50 million. Okay. Like there's a ton of money out there for it. And there's enough opportunity, like we said, to leverage these listings for traditional business, right? Whether they say a good salesman is going to sell the asset, a phenomenal salesman is going to leverage that listing to get another listing or to pick up a buyer. And that's what I want for you. I want REO to be a portion of your business, but I want you to be so good at marketing that you pick up more listings, you pick up more buyers, and you continue to dominate that REO space and keep getting assignments from REO. Let that be one of your strategies, okay? And with the help from me and from Josh, we've got you covered. We'll get you in, okay? So, a lot of great strategies here. Pick the ones that work for you. I would say if it's within your ability to do it, do every single one of them. And if you can't, then just back out the ones that you can't. Like if you can't go in and win an auction, that's great. But you can still attend a trade show, right? You can drive to it. Okay, you can stay in a cheaper motel. FaceTime is so important. On-site trainings are so important. And then really cheap things, you know, $100 edible bouquet sent to an operations manager is going to get to everybody on their team at least, and they're going to remember you, okay? So questions, comments, theories, follow-up, anything like that, you let me know, and we'll continue the conversation. Otherwise, you know, as always, I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity to share this with you. I appreciate you being present and putting up with me wandering all over the place. I wish I could say it's going to get better, but we both know that it's not. So let me just say thank you so much. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be your partner and to help you as you go accomplish your goals. And I'm excited to see what you do with this. So thanks again. I'll see you on the next module.